Hello. Hello, do you hear me?
Perhaps you hear me now.
Yes, do you hear me also?
I hear you perfectly fine. It's whenever I join Zoom, it figures out some new way of trying to use a new speaker that I don't have, or a new microphone or something. Thank you, Shane, for sending out the note to everyone else. I was about to send out a additional note. I expect that Ninuji-san will want to make some comments, and probably good if we can clear things up sort of as far as process things goes. Shane, just a question for clarification. The steering committee responsible for final approval, that consists of the board and working group chairs. Is that correct?
Yes, Shane, in the chat he tells he's on in an event, he cannot use
All right.
sound. So,
Sorry, I should have said that, but I think that's the process anyhow. So I'll send out a note to the new design explaining that as well. Let's see, we can probably wait a few more minutes, but to update you a little bit, Markety, and I think we talked about this briefly in Bilbao, but I think sort of the Japanese has some concerns with some aspects of the specification. So you're obviously the chair, so it's up to you to decide if you want to try to address those, or if we should move ahead and see if they can be resolved in the steering committee instead. But just bring it up that it's of course an option to say that, well, we release a version 1.1 where we address those concerns instead of having to deal with them in the steering committee.
okay.
I think sort of the way Ninuji-san explained it to me is what his concern was, the mandatory nature of having the full dependency trees. So not just top level, but everything. He thought that was something that would be hard for the Japanese software supply chain. He can probably explain it a lot better, but the way I understood was that was sort of the one requirement they thought were perhaps a bit excessive, or at least that they would have problems living up to.
Okay, yeah.
Then the question for me is that that's probably anyhow going to be required by the CRA, the way I understand it. So it's those two things, sort of octagonal to each other. It's a strong requirement, yes, but on the other hand, in a few years' time, we'll have to do that anyhow.
Yes. On a different topic, I don't know if you've seen that, but there was a bug filed in the GitHub bug tracker 2 days ago.
Yes, should we have a look at that perhaps?
Yeah. Um, so it says the draft telco specification states that the package should be identified by a package URL. And he says there is no uniformity around Perl usage to ensure that a given Perl is a unique identifier for a software component. Honestly, I don't think it's our task to clarify this. If there are ambiguities, they should be addressed in the package URL specification itself. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. That needs to be solved in the Perl community. I guess I don't know if his comment in his mind would be resolved by removing uniquely in the specification language.
Yes, well, I think the thing is that for a given package, some people might use a slightly different URL, a different package URL by, for instance, adding more information in some cases. For instance, you might add to the URLs architecture on which it is used, but that's not mandatory. So I understand it's something like that he is concerned with. But, well, I don't think we cannot be too restrictive here.
No, I will agree with you on that one. And if it's an unresolved issue in the Perl community, it seems like it's nothing we can solve here. I would probably file this as, well, thank you for the bug report. We're gonna sort of leave this one as sort of unresolved until it's sort of fixed in the Perl community. That would be my thinking.
Okay.
But I don't know what's your thinking. Do you have any other suggestions how to fix this one?
No. Oh, we have one more. Takashi's son is turning. Hello, Takashi-san.
Hello.
Hello. Oh. See, only 4 members?
Yes. Shane is out of office. He's at some conference, so he unable to.
Yes.
Are you at the same event? I think he mentioned he was going to Kyoto.
So we Japan work group has now we Japan group has a so Shane and I are also attending that meeting now. So we are very sorry.
So bad timing for this meeting then. I have talked a bit with Mark about some comments that you had about the.
We are really sorry. Okay, and I'm sorry. I have one, how to say, some asking to you because now I mentioned Japan Bug Group has meetings now. So Kobota-san and I will attend the how to say the second time meetings in the later today.
Okay.
Maybe so is it okay?
Yeah.
So yes, of course.
Okay. So I'm really sorry. Please forgive us to see you later.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I should leave now.
Looking forward to speak to you later, Nimushi-san.
Sure. Thank you, Jimmy-san and Marketing-san. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. That will be an uncomfortable time zone for them, but that's it's at least good if they come to the table and we can discuss. I can send out an email beforehand if you want to, Mark, at the end.
Okay.
Trying to summarize sort of my understanding of the issue, if that would help.
Okay. Anything else?
No, not on my end. I don't really have anything else. It's perhaps interesting if did you have a discussion with Gary while in Bilbao on if an SPDX profile would be an option for this? I'm just thinking sort of backup or possible alternative if we don't progress this within OpenChain.
Yes, that was a proposal from Gary O'Neill. and he sent me a note after the meeting asking me if that would be okay. So I said yes. So in any case, it would be in SPDX 3.1. So that gives us some time to think about it.
Yeah, no, I think that would be good also. I mean, for me, it's not as good as having it as an OpenChain product, but if it turns out that it's contentious or that we can't get it through the steering committee, then I think that's a sufficient alternative. Preferably, I mean, I would like both. So that is both an OpenChain product, but it's also mirrored as a SPDX profile.
Okay. Okay, so you will join this afternoon?
I will join this afternoon. No problem.
Okay, very good.
Take the discussion with the Japanese, with Koboto-san and Inuji-san. Then I will send an email sort of in preparation for that with you, me. I just do it off list, but I'll send it with you, me, Shane, Inuji-san, and Koboto-san on there, so that we have some common understanding of what we're going to discuss and some documentation of it. I think that'd be good, and then we can take that during the afternoon meeting.
Hello, Jimmy.
Hello. Hi, Jimmy.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening.
No.
Yes, it's very late for you.
No matter.
Yeah, good
Thank
night.
you so much for you taking your time.
I'm sorry. I'm now in the hotel. So
Me too.
I hope you had a good Japan work group meeting.
Maybe. No.
Maybe.
It was a very good meeting.
Sure.
Glad to hear it. Thank you for your email, Godson. That was much appreciated. I think I might have gotten the concerns mixed up, so that was a very good clarification.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to say I love the Telco's SBOM spec. It's a very good specification and guideline to operate the SBOM. So, as I already sent an email, my concern is about the SPDX part. So I'd like to discuss about only my opinion, and not from the Japanese community's opinion, but I'd like to discuss with you.
Yes, you are welcome to share your opinion.
Okay. I have just sent an email 1 or 2 minutes before to Jimmy and Mark and or Shane Nijoji-san. And only my concern is SPDX working group nearly to release version 3.0. On the other hand, Telco SBOM want to become OpenChain SBOM spec is about to release based on version 2.2.1. It's a ISO standard.
Mhm.
And also, in our industry, Japanese industry, customers sometimes ask for SBOMs in Cyclone DX format. And the fact that SPDX is only specification for OpenChain make it difficult for some companies to operate SBOMs. So as a result of discussing such practical problem, we propose light profile and SPDX Lite to SPDX working group. And now continuing to discuss Lite version 3.0. It's my concern.
Yes, I understand your concern. Well, we started the work many months back. At that time, we had the choice between 2.2 and 2.3. And we selected 2.2 because it was the ISO format. Honestly, I don't know when SPX3 will be out. I discussed in the SPDX mini summit in Bilbao. They said that well, it should be finalized in 3 months or so. But for the moment, it's too soon to base a standard in on SPX3 because the standard is not ready, and moreover, the tooling is not ready to consume and produce SPDX3. There are some prototypes, but it's really very early. So, of course, we can update the OpenChain Telco specification with SPDX3 in perhaps 1 year or so, when the standard will be published and when the tools are ready to implement it. We are currently doing analysis in Nokia. We are currently doing some analysis on tooling, and some tools still produce SPDX 2.2. So for the moment, SPDX3 is clearly not possible. We can discuss whether it should be 2.2 or 2.3.
Yes, understood. But as far as I know, CRA is also delayed and will take effect about 2025, right? So I think it's not so in a hurry. And CRA doesn't define anything. They just defer de facto standard or such common SBOM spec. So I think it would be better to contribute or follow the SPDX format, SPDX working group specification. And Kate and Gary answered after 3 months is they will publish the new specification 3.0. So this from this perspective, I think also it would be better to wait their specification. Sorry, are there any comments, Jimmy or Miju-san?
Yeah, I also see the value in having it as an XPDX profile. I think that would be very good. I don't remember if the telco spec has the aspect of security with being able to add a VEX number, for example, but that's also a very nice feature that could be incorporated for such a submission if it isn't already. My reaction as why I would like it as some sort of OpenChain deliverable on this until then is that it gives me something to point my suppliers and my customers to, and it also has the potential to already be a de facto standard when CRA starts to be implemented, and pointed that this is the industry standard, as to not give them ideas for things we could never deliver. So for me, it's sort of a gap filler until either way. Even if we submit now, I don't think we could get an official profile until version 3.1. So that's definitely more than 3 months away. I don't know when that would be, but I would already now like to have something to start familiarize my suppliers and my customers to, that this is sort of what you can expect, and sort of even if this gets modified slightly in sort of the process of transcribing it into an SPDX profile, I still think that would have sort of allowed us to start working internally to be able to deliver this. So if perhaps SPDX profile is the best way, but it would be nice to have something until then, and perhaps we don't need an official endorsement for that. I'm not sure, but that's my thinking. But you also, in your email, you brought up the issue of Cyclone DX. So for me, that becomes more an issue of if the customer requires Cyclone DX, they would not point to this specification anyhow. They would say that they wanted it in Cyclone DX. Perhaps it's worthwhile considering if we should fork it for Cyclone DX, and say if what your industry wants is Cyclone DX, here is the equivalent thing, but in Cyclone DX. I'm not very familiar with Cyclone DX, so I don't know if that's possible or not. I know that when we started to look at this, we sort of early on settled for SPDX, since none of our telco customers had any appetite for Cyclone DX at that time. But if this has value beyond telco, and if there's an appetite to fork it for Cyclone DX, I don't have a fundamental problem with that. That's a lift we could do. We would probably need to involve people who actually understand Cyclone DX, which I don't, in that work. But I think that could be a solution to that.
Yes, some remarks. First, as I said, they promised 3.0 in something like 3 months, but honestly, they already said several times when the specification will be ready, and well, they missed it a few weeks back. They promised to have it ready for Bilbao, but this was not the case. But that's a parenthesis. So about Cyclone DX, two remarks. There exist some conversion tools between SPDX and Cyclone DX in both ways. So I'm not an expert in Cyclone DX, but from what I have seen in the last Cyclone DX release, which is 1.5, they have added a number of fields to be more compatible with SPDX. So I did some tests converting from SPDX to Cyclone DX and back from Cyclone DX to SPDX, and well, there are some issues, but it can work. So that's one possibility. And well, the other remark I have is that our specification is not only about SPDX. It's also about when the SBOM must be delivered, when the SBOM must be created or can be created. It's about signing the SBOM and so on. It's not only focused on SPDX. It's there are several clauses that are not related to the format.
But section 3.1 in Telco SBOM specification, section 3.1 data format describes a Telco SBOM shall adhere to the version 2.2 of the SPDX data format.
Yeah. Yes, that's because we had to make a choice.
Okay.
I agree that it's the first thing that is it is the first requirement. So yes, there are two questions here. First is the version of SPDX that should be used, and here we made a choice also that may be reconsidered in the future when SPDX 3 is out. The other thing is, yes, can we authorize Cyclone DX also? I don't know. Now we have a specification which is stable in version 1.0. So the next step is that it will be reviewed inside OpenChain. So to see if it can be approved as an official OpenChain specification. So I think that is the right place to make all comments there during this review phase.
Sorry, yes, I partly agree with that, but as I wrote in my email, as much as we can solve before going into the formal review is of course good and make everyone comfortable with that. So for me, what sort of left here is that yes, part of this can be made into SPDX profile, and I think that would be a very, very good step. And then if that's being made into a profile, obviously once version 3 is out, we would need to change, or we could change the specification once that profile exists, because then we have sort of official support for the specification in the SPDX standard. But as Mark also said, the specification goes a bit further than just which fields in SPDX. It's also sort of about signing, handling, and the when of the SBOM, which is kind of important. And that doesn't, as I understand it, translate well into a into an SPDX profile. But also with that said, I mean, we can of course recommend in the steering committee that we also create a version of this for Cyclone DX, essentially just taking a fork of it and saying, well, remove every reference to SPDX and replace that with the relevant info for Cyclone DX, because a lot of the things here as to the when and how the SBOM is created and the signing, that's independent of SPDX. Or one could try to create this as in the next version, a version agnostic to if it's SPDX or Cyclone DX. To be honest, I'm not really in favor of that. I'd rather have two different specs, because I think that's the SPDX spec and then the Cyclone DS spec, because I think that's sort of less confusing and easier for me to point my suppliers to. Otherwise, they will feel that, well, the specification says you can do either, so they either will feel that they have to do both, or they will choose the one I don't want, and we will sort of anyhow have to force them to give it to us in the other formats, because I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to make both formats mandatory in the spec. That probably increases the burden unduly on suppliers. And at the same time, if we make one optional, that will mean that some people will have chosen the wrong one from my needs. So having two specs is, in that sense, more desirable for me.
So you would you would duplicate the document and adapt it to Cyclone DX?
Yes, but that would be my preference. That would, of course, necessitate someone with a better knowledge of Cyclone DX to participate in that process to make sure that it's a fair translation. But I'm sure we can get someone either with that knowledge or that's invested into the ecosystem, or even someone from Cyclone DX themselves to help. I mean, one of the reasons that we settled on SPDX was the fact that it is an ISO standard, which is helpful sort of in the procurement world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, because as a Bilbao, I would mention about I mentioned about the how to say the policy of the opportunity specifications. Now I put the links in the meeting chat. The also Shane pointed out in email. This is a FAQ and the specification development cost questions, and in the section a little bit lower place. This argues about that we have four guiding principles. The first one is build trust around the opinions, open source supply chain, and the second one is remember that less is more. And the third things, keep our specification limited to what and why, avoid the how and when. So in that context, I'm a little bit confused about the telco SBOM spec. So it is according to the this telco spec. How to say? It's a design policy of this telco SBOM spec. なんだろう。it is aligned to this OpenChain's four guiding principles. So my feeling is Teco Esmon specs mentioned about the how.
Mm-hmm.
So in the sense, why this document? So I mean, if this if how to say, for me this document seems to the guidelines somehow, not a specification for the open chain project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can see that concern as well.
So
it sort of it's perhaps too descriptive.
Yes.
Or like do this and this, rather than say you need to do
but
things.
on the
Now
other
we're telling
hand,
them exactly what to do. Yeah, I can see that concern.
but on the other hand, so to be honest, the description of this document is very, very clear and how to say the practical for the operation. So in the sense, I agree with the content of it. But according to this principle guiding principles, so why it can be called it as a guidelines as it is?
Yeah,
why this?
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point. Perhaps there's some middle ground by saying that this is OpenChain SBOM guide, perhaps. That could work, and we could do the other things in or some other things we can likely do in the SPDX profile. Because I see your point on the 4 guiding principles and on the charter, if this really aligns with the charter, and the question is how descriptive we can be in terms of recommending prescribing other standards. So there's a good argument there that perhaps this is not, it's a good thing, the specification perhaps, but it's perhaps nothing that according to the OpenChain guidelines and chart that we can approve as a specification. Perhaps we can do some other sort of endorsement or push it elsewhere. I mean, the automotive group did very good work with the SPDX Lite profile that ended up being an SPDX product. I'm not dead set on the fact that this needs to be in OpenChain as such. I think OpenChain has, and now I'm just looking at this from my company perspective. OpenChain has the market traction where and the credibility where I could point my customers and my suppliers to this, and they would see it as something that is sort of has market traction. They would understand it, perhaps calling it the OpenChain SBOM guide or endorsing it as a guide is sufficient for that. I don't know. I would myself like to think a little more on this matter of scope and if that's the right thing for OpenChain, and also perhaps explore then how we, if it's possible to add these additional requirements to in the profile structure of SPDX.
And Jimmy, in this discussion, you mentioned about so many times about for the supplier or for the customer. I can understand your concern, but on the other hand, if this kinds of documents only argued about the telco industry, so if we OpenChain project how to say provide this kind of document as for telco industry, like a telco, so some specific industry. So in that sense, so I can imagine if some other kind of industry wants to make their own specific SBOM specification, so it can be allowed. The kind of specification will how to say delays and delays and delays. So if in the kind of situation will come, so I'm afraid. So there are so many standards for several specific industries for the SBOM. So it is surely how to say good things for the open source ecosystem. I'm a little bit concerned about it. So if we can make some consensus to operate, to generate, and to consume, and to provide the operator SBOM, not specifically some certain industries, just for the generic generic industries. So it will be better for us, especially we Toshiba is somehow supplier for every kinds of industries. So
Yes, I fully agree to that. That it would be even better if we could make this more universal.
More generic or
I
more
think that
universal, as you mentioned.
we started out with the idea that telco was special, that we had special requirements. I think Mark, you can probably correct me on this, but it turned out we don't have any special requirements. We just have requirements on a quality SBOM. So I think that the telco SBOM is applicable to more industries. The name is perhaps a problem, and we discussed that many times in the past as well. If we should have a different name for it, but no one had any good suggestions, so it just stuck with telco SBOM, which was what I had in the first draft of this. It's not a very good name in that sense. I would very much like a different name for it that's more universal and more appealing, because the truth is also that for a lot of our suppliers, they're not telco specific. They are software suppliers.
It's very generic. In this document, so it's a very generic one. So how to say? As far as I know, in the email discussion, so telco might be Mark-san mentioned about the currently the telco SMO specs is not limited to the how to say not it doesn't include the telco industry specific data fields or ideas. So it will be treated as a more generic ones. So I totally agree with it. So in the sense, if we can, I think so. In current situation, this document is from the some publication documents from the OpenChain project. It will be guidelines is better for included as a supplier for the OpenChain open source ecosystem. But if we want to make some clarified the SBOM specification for the not depend on the specific industry, just independently, more generically. So it will be better for us to make some なんていうのかな、metadata how to say so specification as a SPDX context. So in that sense, the SPDX not SPDX right. So as Kobato-san mentioned before, so light profile is more suitable for the discussion for that futures, for more generic specification for the license compliance things. So Jimmy-san, Mark-san, and the takeover group guys will join the SPDX work group, and also country, unfortunately, so light profile is discussing mainly only Japanese industry, Japanese companies, but it will be better for spreading wide to the members. So like you and the tech work group members will join the discussion about the lighting profile to build make a consensus for more generic license SMO specification for the license compliance one. But currently we need some practical guide to generate and operate the SBOM. So in that sense, this document should be treated as a more practically guide for the current situation is very good. Sorry. a little bit confusing sentences, but I really appreciate it if you understand what I want to mean.
I think I understand what you're trying to say. Yes. Yes. So partly it's a naming issue. If we can find a better name for it for now, and if we can engage with the SPDX Lite community to see if it's possible to pick something to go. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So discuss more with them and see if it's possible to merge or incorporate or create a separate profile and have this as sort of supporting or ancillary materials for the pieces that wouldn't necessarily go into the profile. Yes, I understand. And to be honest, I mean, I would want this to be as widely used as possible. Preferably not just within the telco industry, because I do think it's a good thing and it's valuable outside of the telco industry as well. And for Kubota-san, to your comment as well, to go to an ISO spec, I don't think that's at least that's not my intent at the moment. Even if we endorse it as a OpenChain product, going with it to create a ISO specification, that's a completely different discussion.
No, thank you.
So,
Our
but
big
the
concern
question is
go ahead.
it can be a OpenChain specification, not an ISO specification. Would you see I guess you would have a problem with it being a OpenChain specification as well, even if we don't go to ISO.
Clear. Niju-san, do you have any issue or concerns?
Concerned. Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, my concern is if we or OpenChain publishes ISO standard, there are many problems in Japan industry in the operation of ISO standard. So that's my concern.
To me, this doesn't have to be an ISO standard. That's fine. In either case, I don't see this as sort of near an ISO standard for a very, very long time. What I would think is that if this becomes a simpler path for it to become an ISO standard is, of course, if it's included in SPDX 3.1 and that becomes an ISO standard. I think that's probably an easier way to make it an ISO standard.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a simpler way to make it an ISO standard. And then having sort of the guide or the de facto standard hosted in OpenChain. I think as long as those complement each other, that should be fine. And if it sort of would help overall adoption of good SBOM practices, then I don't mind, or I think it would be good to have a Cyclone DX profile of this or a Cyclone DX fork of this as well. But the question is, to me, what do we do with this when it comes up in the steering committee? Do we say that we're fine with having it as a guide, or would we even be fine having it as a OpenChain de facto specification that we explicitly do not bring to ISO. And third thing is the name. I would welcome suggestions for names that we could put to this that would make it more appealing for the wider audience. If people like it and use it, it shouldn't necessarily be the telco specification. It could be called something else.
ジミーさん、please let me know. So, if some kind of specification for the SBOM for the telco industry, is it to be the standardized document somehow, such as the ISO? It is surely needed to be for the supplier or customer in telco industry?
I think that the easiest path for that is actually not to do it in OpenChain. It's to do it via SPDX and have it as an official profile as part of that ISO standard once 3 and 3.0 becomes ISO standards. For me, I think we have many industry standards that are not ISO standards that we anyhow use. So I don't see ISO standardization as necessary. Not for my needs, at least. Mark, at the end, I don't know if it's the same for you. It's nice to have an ISO standard, but it's strictly it's not necessary, but it certainly helps.
So the reason why I ask you is maybe so nobody knows when the SPDX 3.0 will be the ISO standard, because now it's designing situations. So if, as Kobato mentioned, if the SPDX work groups define the SPDX 3.0 specification within this year, so after that, if someone wants to make this document will be a ISO standard, it will take a little bit times, 6 or 8 months or more. So in the sense, if we want to make some industry-free SBOM specification, so in that sense, そのなんですかね、regardless whether the SPDX 3.0 or 3.1 is as a ISO or not, so we can use the SPDX 3.0 or 3.1 model for the SBOM practice in business.
Yes, I think I understand what you're saying. Yes, I would be fine with that, or that would satisfy my requirements. I think sort of it would help if there was some sort of official OpenChain endorsement of this, if we call it guide or if we call it specification or what we call it. It doesn't have to be ISO, but some sort of official endorsement saying that this is a good thing that would, and moving it out from the telco group into another repository, and having it possibly on the site, that would help pointing suppliers to it and make them feel that this is an actual thing. It's not just something on GitHub. Do you understand how I mean? that it's something real.
Yeah, I think I can catch up with you, but another point I would be I want to なんだろう、clarify the timeline for this kind of specification. Kobuda-san, if we build a light profile for the SPDX 3.0, it will be goes on, it will be published within this year, right?
Yes.
So,
But we need to do some stuff.
Yeah. So so in other words, we have only 2 or 3 months to prepare for the light profile for the 3.0. So in this situation, so how do you think about that? What do you think about if this kind of telco spec or some stuff of the telco specification, telco SBOM specification, migrating to the light profile and this?
Yes, I think we can do, but light profile, I think light profile has already included all elements specified in telco SBOM. But SBOM is more simple than light profile. So if telco working group, Mark-san and Jimmy-san want to remove some mandatory element, we needed to discuss more.
Yeah. That's right. That's what I want.
So if the telco SBOM specification contains less than the light profile, it's the light profile then.
No. I mean, this is a surely right profile.
Yeah,
So
I think
I can't understand your meaning.
I mean, it's a light profile. If some portion of current light profile proposal aligned to the telco SMO specification, it's okay. And then we finish the refinement the data field of the light profile. It can be called as a light profile proposal. Not light, just light. I mean.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
But Mark, you are the working group or the telco group chair. I don't know what are your thoughts on it.
Yes, I had checked the light profile, and if I remember correctly, there were some differences in both directions. We make some things mandatory that SPX Lite does not, and the other way around, if I remember well.
In the light profile, some portion from the SPX Lite is removed, such as maybe file analyzed is removed because the 3.0 doesn't have the finalized.
Oh, yeah.
So, if possible, how to say? So, in the next discussion, if you have next discussion, talking about migrating to telco spec migrating to the light profile, we can make some, how to say, comparison sheets, comparison of the data fields to current telco specification and the light profile, and then which is better, with what data field is left and what data field should be removed. So we can discuss in the next time or so.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good for me. I'm perfectly happy to discuss that.
Sorry, one question. When?
So when?
Very good question. Very good question.
I and Ninja-san and I will attend the LF member summit the end of this month.
Yes.
If possibly we can have a separate meeting at there. Of course, making a building setting a remote virtual conference.
I'm going to be at the member summit as well. I don't know if Mark at the end if you're going to be there, but otherwise we can arrange for remote participation, and that will give at least me some time to read up on the light profile and sort of see what the differences are and proposals for or if they can or if they should be merged.
Okay. When is this taking place?
LF member summit will be held on October 24 to 26.
Okay.
And we will be in Monterey, California, so it will be possible to have an overlap with Europe in timing.
Okay, so we are almost at the top of the hour. So it was very good discussion. So I will try to summarize.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank
Have a nice night. Sleep well. Thank you for being up today.
Actually, 1 a.m. in Japan.
Thank you so much, Jimmy-san and Mark-san.
Time for drinks now then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.